Okay, so for today we'll be doing Module 1, Lesson 6. The objective is to interpret the unknown in division using the array model. The materials you'll need are your whiteboard, dry erase marker, and dry eraser. And we're going to follow that same teaching style we did last time, where I do a problem, we do a problem together, and then you do a problem. First up is our vocabulary. So we do have one vocabulary term today, which is quotient. Quotient is the answer in a division problem. So if you look at our picture here and our problem, we have 6 hats, and we've divided them into 2 groups, and that gives us a quotient of 3, which is 3 hats per group. So our answer is 3, and the answer in division is called a quotient. Now I'm going to do a problem for you. As I work through it, please make sure that you are watching so that you don't miss anything that I am doing. It says, draw an array that shows the equation 15 divided by 3 equals 5, where the quotient, that means the answer, represents the size of the groups. Okay, so we need an equation that has 15 total, because I know that in division, that big number always comes first, and that big number is our total. But it wants the quotient to be the size of the groups. So the quotient is the answer. So the answer should be the size of the groups. Well, what's our answer? Our answer is 5. So the size of each group is 5. And so I know if I'm making an array, the size of the group is the same as the size of the row. So I'm going to make a row of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I need to keep going. I know that I'm going to end up needing 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 3 rows of 5. I can check my work by counting by 5s. 5, 10, 15. And I do end up with 15. So I have 15 total divided into 3 rows, which equals 5. And 5 is the size of the group, or the number of dots in each row. Now, write both a division and a multiplication equation for the array. Okay, so here's the array in front of us. Let's start with our division, because we know in division the big number comes first, and we know we have 15 dots. So we have 15 divided by, there are 3 rows. So divided by 3, or divided into 3 groups, equals 5 dots per group. Now let's switch it into a multiplication equation. In our multiplication equation, we have to figure out how many rows there are, or how many groups, because we know that always goes first. Well, we already decided that there are 1, 2, 3 rows, or 3 groups. So 3 will be first. 3 groups of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 in each group. So 3 groups of 5 equals, we can skip count to solve, 5, 10, 15. 3 groups of 5 equals 15. So here's our two equations that we just came up with. Where do you find the quotient in our multiplication equation? So remember, quotient means answer. So here in our division sentence, there's the quotient. The answer is 5. Where do we find that in our multiplication sentence? Well, if you look, here is the 5. If you recall correctly, these two numbers are our factors. They're the numbers that get multiplied together to find the product or the answer. So we see that the quotient in our multiplication equation ends up being one of the factors that we multiply in our multiplication equation. Now it's saying circle the size of groups in both problems. Well, we decided there's 1, 2, 3 groups or 3 rows. So here's a 3, and here's our 3. That is the size of the groups. Now let's go ahead and have you do the problems with me. We're going to go through a similar procedure. Right now on the board, I have blank times 3 equals 24. We need to skip count and track the number of 3's to solve. So right now, we do not know the number of groups, but we do know the size of each group. So go ahead on your whiteboard with me, and we're going to make groups of 3 until we get to 24. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to write my 3 so I don't lose track. Continue this with me. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15. 16, 17, 18. 19, 20, 21. We're getting close. Remember, we have to get all the way up to 24. 22, 23, 24. Okay, so we skip counted, and now we need to track the number of 3's it took us to solve. So how many rows or how many times did we have to skip count by 3 to get all the way up to 24? So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had to skip count by 3's 8 times. So 8 groups of 3 equals 24. So here's our skip count again, this time without the array picture. And here's the problem we solved. 8 times 3 equals 24, or 8 groups of 3 equals 24. Now it says, write a related division equation where the quotient represents the unknown factor. Okay, so quotient is answer. So we know that Our answer goes at the end of our division equation. It wants the quotient to represent the unknown factor. Well, here's our unknown factor. We did not know 8 until we solved. So if they want the quotient to be the unknown factor, on your whiteboard, you're going to write 8 as the quotient. Remember, you're doing this with me. Now on your whiteboard, you are going to fill in the blanks for the other 2 missing numbers. Once you have that answer, go ahead and hold it up. Blank divided by blank equals 8. Remember, the total or the big number always goes first in division. Okay, so go ahead and compare your answers with mine. We know the big number always comes first, or our total. Our total is 24, so that has to go first. We already filled in our quotient as our unknown factor, so the only number left is our 3. 24 divided by 3 equals 8. And if you think back to our array, and you might still have it on your whiteboard, you have 24 circles. They're divided into rows of 3, and that gives you 8 rows. "24 divided in threes makes how many groups?" And that's what we just talked about. 24 divided into threes ends up needing to be 8 rows. Okay, let's take a look at those 2 equations that we have. Our multiplication, 8 groups of 3 equals 24, and our division, 24 divided by 3 equals 8. How are the unknown factor and quotient related in these equations? Well, what is our unknown factor first? Our unknown factor was our 8. How is that related to the quotient? I'm going to go ahead and let you take a minute to think. How are the unknown factor, so how is the 8 related to the quotient in our division? I'm going to go ahead and put you into breakout rooms, and you will get about 1 minute to discuss with the people in your group how this unknown factor of 8 in our multiplication equation and the quotient of 8 in our division equation are related. How are they related? Okay, so in your group, you might have talked about how they're the same number. Which they are, they're both 8. You might have also mentioned that this 8 is the number of groups in our array, or the number of rows. And in our division equation, it's the same thing because these two problems had the same array picture. So that 8 is the same number, and it is also the number of groups or rows in our array. We do have one more to solve. I'm going to let you do this a little more on your own. Our equation is 2 times blank equals 18. You're going to skip count and track the number of 2's to solve. I'll go ahead and get you started. So it's 2 rows of blank equals 18. Now 2 rows means that we don't have 2 in each row. It means we only have 2 rows. So it means 1 row, 2 rows. And you need to skip count to track the number of 2's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're going to keep going all the way across, adding to your 2 rows until you get to 18. Watch my example if you're having a hard time getting your array drawn. I'll give you just a minute to finish up on your array. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our skip count. We counted 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So we counted by 2's all the way up to 18. How many times did I have to count by 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 groups of 9 equals 18. So I have 2 rows of 9. There's our skip count again, our problem that we solved. And it says, write a related addition equation where the quotient represents the unknown factor. So the quotient is our answer, and we want that to be the unknown factor, which is what we didn't know. So blank divided by blank equals 9. Go ahead and write that on your whiteboard and fill in those number answers. Blank divided by blank equals 9. Okay, so remember in division, our biggest number or our total always comes first. So we're going to put 18 first. We already used 9. We put that unknown factor as the quotient, which leaves us with our 2. 18 circles divided into 2 rows equals 9 circles per row. So like we just said, 18 divided in 2s makes how many groups? 18 divided into 2 rows makes 9 groups. How are the unknown factor and the quotient related in those equations? This is the same thing we talked about last time. The unknown factor, which was 9 in our multiplication equation, and the quotient, which is our answer in our division, are both the same number, and this time they don't represent the number of groups, they represent the size of the groups, because there were 9 dots in each row. So the size of our row was 9. Now we're to the part where you are going to demonstrate what you have learned alone. You're going to be working on your Cami homework, which can be found in your Google Classroom for today, Tuesday, under week 6. You're going to be doing that 1 through 4. And I believe we are skipping number 3. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of a different homework. So it will not be 1 through 4, it will be 1 through 3, but 3 does have an A and a B, so keep mind of that. So you'll be doing that whole front page or that whole worksheet in Cami. As always, if you have any questions, make sure you stay here in the Google Meet and raise your hand.